Hey, what's going on, Laker fans? D-Mac here. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. The truth about why the Lakers trade for Chris Paul was vetoed in just a second. Well, a quick reminder for all the latest Lakers news and rumors, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you want to see us post even more Lakers content, smash that like button. And as always, I want your takes down below in the comment section. Who do you think is the most to blame for why Chris Paul's trade to the Lakers was ultimately vetoed? Let me know down below. And for all the latest Lakers news, head over to alllakers.com. So even to this day, it's the most talked about NBA blockbuster trade that never was. Chris Paul was supposed to be a Los Angeles Laker. Here's how the trade was originally supposed to go down. The Lakers were to get Chris Paul from the New Orleans Hornets. The Hornets were set to get Lamar Odom from the Lakers, Kevin Martin from the Houston Rockets, Luis Scola from the Rockets, Goran Dragic from the Rockets, and the Rockets were set to get Pau Gasol from the Lakers. But you know what happened at this point? The trade was ultimately vetoed by the NBA commissioner at the time, David Stern. And I still remember like it was yesterday. When the news was announced, we saw it on the scroller. Laker fans went crazy. Kobe Bryant and Chris Paul on the same team. Maybe Kobe Bryant would have been able to win 6 or 7 championships. Maybe he doesn't get ran into the ground by Mike D'Antoni and tear his Achilles. Maybe things are different for the Lakers, who have already passed the Celtics in overall team championships at this point. The deal had so many historical implications to it, but it never was. And why was that the case? Well, we're going to learn more about that in just a second. But when the deal went down, Laker fans went crazy, and NBA owners around the league cried like little babies. Cavs owner Dan Gilbert sent this email to David Stern in December of 2011. I just don't see how we can allow this trade to happen. I know the vast majority of owners feel the same way that I do. When will we just change the name of 25 of the 30 teams to the Washington Generals? Cry more, Dan Gilbert. Oh, what? We had Dan Gilbert go full Karen on David Stern, asking to speak to the manager, trying to nix this trade. I definitely feel like David Stern felt pressure to nix this trade from owners around the league, because if Dan Gilbert was contacting him, you know there were numerous owners around the league that were doing the same exact thing. And I'm going to tell you why David Stern's decision to nix the trade actually hurt the league in the end in just a second. But first, on the 10-year anniversary of the veto trade heard around the world, the LA Times published the oral history of the trade, and here were some of the most telling, revealing nuggets from the piece. Former NBA Vice President of Basketball Operations Stu Jackson told the LA Times, "Stern ran things by me as an ex-general manager at the time. I explained to David the following. I felt that the package of Odom, Martin, Scola, Dragic was going to vault the New Orleans Hornets to a position where they'd make the playoffs, but they were going to be a playoff team that was not capable of winning a championship. In other words, I thought so much of Monty Williams, I thought he would coach them up and get in the playoffs, not have home court advantage, and fans would be happy, obviously, but they would be caught in mediocrity, and a mediocre team is not necessarily attractive to a potential owner. They want lesser payroll. They want to put their stamp on the team and build it, and by making this trade, to me, it made the franchise unattractive or less attractive to a potential owner. And to my surprise, after another day, David kind of got his head wrapped around it, and he agreed. He made the decision to veto the trade and not approve." Jackson would go on to say, David made some comment that the reason he vetoed the trade was because it wasn't an attractive enough package for a player of Chris Paul's caliber. That was only a half-truth. The other part was that he also felt that he wanted the Hornets to be an attractive property to a prospective owner. David Stern has since passed away, but in 2018, he said this on nixing the Lakers trade. "I did it because I was protecting the then Hornets. To this day, everyone always asks me, well, why did you keep Chris Paul from going to the Lakers? I didn't keep him. I didn't approve the trade. No team sells or trades a future Hall of Famer without the owner signing off, and I was the owner's rep." Okay, so we understand their logic and what the Hornets were trying to accomplish back in 2011, but the issue that everyone has is the fact that this trade felt like it was a done deal. Chris Paul said on the Knuckleheads podcast in 2020, "I was on the phone with my brother and my agent and all that. We figuring out a plane to get to New Orleans to get us to LA. My agent clicked over, said, hold on, clicked over, and then he came back on and he was like stuttering, and we was hot. Me and Kobe had talked. You know what I'm saying?" And then John Black, former Lakers vice president of public relations, he was quoting the piece as saying, And I don't remember another example of a trade press release being written ever until trades were done. This was done. I was told this was a done deal. The press release was completely ready to go. Luckily, we didn't send it. And then Lakers president and governor Jeannie Buss said, I feel like our fans felt like the league just wants to punish the Lakers, like the league is working against the Lakers from being successful. And that wasn't the case at all. And it wasn't David acting as commissioner. It was David acting as a person protecting the Hornets. And then Chris Paul, he said on the Knuckleheads podcast, I always say I play for the Lakers for a little bit, like for a couple of hours. So one detail the piece didn't get into was whether or not the Hornets would have accepted Andrew Bynum in the deal, because Andrew Bynum, he was eventually used in the trade for Dwight Howard, but he would go on to play like 60-some-odd games with the Lakers after that. Had they included Andrew Bynum for Chris Paul, that still would have been a great trade for the Lakers at the end of the day, but the word on the street is that Jim Buss didn't want to include him, and he wanted to keep him. Yes, he was an all-star center, but he had debilitating knees. You had doctors that said it was coming for years, so was it really the right move to hold on to Andrew Bynum? Look, to me, I'd rather just kept Pau Gasol and traded Andrew Bynum in the first place when it comes to that deal. Yes, Bynum was younger, but Pau Gasol was a proven championship caliber player. He had the chemistry with Kobe Bryant. He was the second best player on a team that won back-to-back NBA championships. Now, when it comes to Chris Paul, it worked out for the Clippers. They didn't win a championship. They didn't get past the second round, but you did have Lob City. There was an electricity to the Los Angeles Clippers, and while he was the floor general for the Clippers, he averaged 18.8 points per game, 9.8 assists per game. He became the point guard. He spent 6 seasons in LA. He had the most win shares and assists in franchise history to go along with 5 All-NBA selections and 6 All-Defensive Team honors. So if he goes to the Lakers, one, you're going to have another retired number. You're going to have another Hall of Famer. You're going to potentially win more championships. You're going to potentially preserve Kobe Bryant. He's going to avoid that major Achilles injury, so we'll never know. I mean, that's not a guarantee, but it would have taken a lot of the workload off him, because who did the Lakers end up with? They ended up with Steve Nash, and Steve Nash and Kobe, they played a grand total of 42 games together, and he turned out to be a bust for Los Angeles. So at the end of the day, I definitely think it was the owners that pressured David Stern. I think David Stern realized that, hey, this is my cash cow, the Los Angeles Lakers, but are they getting too strong? They were about to start another dynasty after having a dynasty in the early 2000s, and I think that weighed on him, and I think if there was another franchise out there that included that same group of players, that would have gotten the deal done. There's no question in my mind. I think there was an issue with the Los Angeles Lakers being too good and too dominant, and also you look at how David Stern plays chess. He wanted that Miami Heat team, the Heatos, with LeBron, with Wade, with Chris Bosh. They were just starting out there down in South Beach, and you would have had one of the most epic NBA finals ever if you had Chris Paul and Kobe Bryant against the Heatles. Imagine that. That would have been the highest rated NBA finals since the 98 NBA finals between the Jazz and the Bulls. It would have outrated the 2010 Celtics versus Lakers. It would have outrated the 2016 Cavs versus Warriors, even though that was a great series. And it would have certainly outrated the Heat versus the Spurs. So in the end, I actually think it hurt the league, because it really started the spiral for the Los Angeles Lakers for the next decade, and that is the marquee franchise, and the Lakers definitely struggled. But the Lakers, they're not free from blame either, because if they did counter and say, we want Andrew Bynum, that'll get the deal done, and they didn't do that, or they didn't start with that initial proposal, I definitely think that Jim Buss and the powers that be within the Lakers also deserve some blame at the time for not doing whatever it took to get Chris Paul, because that is what you should have done at the time. Say, everyone but Kobe you can take, and that includes Andrew Bynum. So that would be my $1 million question. How did that go down? But let me know down below, who is the most to blame for the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers getting vetoed? Let me know down below in the comment section. And would Kobe and Chris Paul have won a championship together? Let me know down below. My name is D-Mac. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMac_LA. For all latest Lakers news and rumors, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you want to see us post even more Lakers content, smash that like button. And as always, go Lakers!